Hi, I'm Vincent Lambe, and today I'm here with the director of The Heart of Texas, which is one of the live action short films which is in consideration for the Academy Awards this year. So, Gregory, great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
No problem. I really liked the film. I watch a lot of short films, and this one really stayed with me. So it's really nice to meet you and to get to sit down and to talk about this. So tell me, like, how did this start for you, and what made you want to tell this story?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but I've been living in Los Angeles for almost 20 years now. And in my neighborhood, I was out walking one day and this car went flying down the street and almost clipped a landscaper. And I had no idea, if this man was an immigrant, if he was here legally, what his story was. But it started a question in my mind that I started to interrogate, which is if he was undocumented and would he be able to get medical help? Would he want to seek medical help? Would he be able to go to the police or want the police to help him or interfere in the situation? And so that my idea just kind of sat in my mind, and I started talking to people, some first generation Mexican Americans. I started talking to healthcare workers and people I know in law enforcement, and I realized there's a much bigger story here. And so that was the germination of where that all started.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I love the characters in it, and they're quite contrasting, but they still have one thing in common. So she's a singer songwriter. She's never really had a break, and she's chasing her dreams, and he's an illegal immigrant. Dreaming of a better life, I suppose. So I guess the film it's about chasing your dreams, isn't it? Is that something? Is that what you had in mind? For the film? I mean, to show that between the two characters.
Yeah, I think an inherently American quality is ambition and chasing your dreams and trying to look for a better life, trying to improve upon whatever your station is. And I started really thinking about, as an artist, as somebody who makes films and as a writer, and knowing a lot of musicians and people in my life, um, just what that drive and that ambition looks like, and then starting to think more about like what opportunity looks like and what being an American means, and how we're all, trying to seek the same thing but in different ways. And so, yeah, it's about following your dreams, and it's really interesting to me in the film how the job that this, Janie, the musician, wants to leave for something better is the job that this guy desperately wants to have so that he can make a better life for himself. So it's just interesting, just the perspective and the privilege and all of that was kind of a part of what we wanted to talk about.
Right. So I thought it was really great. Well, I thought the two performances were incredible in this film. And it's a big part of what makes it all ring true. I think. I mean, these really great raw performances. So I mean, had you worked with the cast before? I mean, tell me a bit about how you cast the film, or well, so with Lauren. I think Lauren is the co-writer as well. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it started with that script that I told you about. And originally it did take place in Los Angeles and it was about an actress on her way to an audition.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that kind of sat in a drawer. And, when you write something and you're like, the idea is there, but it's not quite ready. It's not quite there. And, the whole film is really a story of collaboration and trusting your collaborators. I went to a film festival. I met Lauren. She's a writer and a director herself. I saw a film she made called Honor. It was absolutely spectacular. I approached her after the screening. We got to talking. And, cut to about 6 months later back in Los Angeles, we're talking. And I say, I have this script. And together we totally pulled it apart and rebuilt it. And I think a lot of Janie's performance, a lot of what Lauren brought to Janie was built from her own experience. She grew up singing and she's a musician. Now she's not blonde, she's not from Texas, she doesn't play the guitar, but a lot of that emotionality of trying to like get to the next level was built into that performance. And then she acted as our casting director on this, and she did a nationwide search for looking for Jesus. And we ended up getting Carlos to come on board. He auditioned, and he was actually our first audition. And we went and
Really?
saw
Right.
dozens and dozens and dozens more people, and we just kept coming back to him. And ultimately, we had to
Right.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's great face, great expressive eyes. I thought, and so does Lauren, of course. That's very interesting that you met at a film festival, and that's how it came about. So the script that you started with then would have been the one where it was written about an actress. Was it on her way to an audition, and was it was Lauren a singer songwriter or something? Was that why you thought about changing it, or how did that change come about?
Yeah, so I mean, writing is rewriting, right?
Yeah,
So
of course,
originally,
right.
I mean, the central conflict was the same. This actress collides with an undocumented person who resists help because out of fear, out of policy, out of misunderstanding of the situation, all of those things. So the core issue works, and I think that speaks to writing, right? If you have a good idea, it can kind of translate into different things. But in talking with Lauren and talking with, like I said, I did all this research and talking to different people who actually have this lived experience, we realized this is a story that's a much more meaningful, much more impactful if it's set in Texas. And Texas operates as this microcosm for the US, right? It's kind of its own thing. It's on the border. It's dealing directly with, a lot of questions around immigration and what is the best way to approach that situation
Mm.
with policy. And when we moved it, it still could have been an actor, but there was just something about I think the idea that we struck on was the idea that she would play a song, with cowboy chords, cliched phrases like Star Spangled Dreams and all these things that are kind of trite and a little bit, cheesy. And then after going through this experience, all of these words and all of this stuff is imbued with this really, really deep personal meaning that comes from, the pain and the ambition and all the things that you see in the film. And I realized like that is a very American. I mean, I play guitar poorly. I'm a bit of a musician, so I think it just all sort of swirled together, and it just made the most sense to do it that way. And it's again economy of storytelling. In a short, you want to have the best, the most concise idea.
Right. Yeah. So I love the way, she at the beginning of it, she kind of just bumps into him right in the diner. And then she barely kind of gives him a second glance. And then when she hits him, then we see who it is. And it's the editing is very good because we know exactly who it is then at the right time. I think there's a little flicker and we're just like, oh yeah, that's the guy, right? But then she's seeing him, from in a whole different perspective. And I was interested, I mean, was it important to you that she had met him before? Do you think she would have reacted differently if, let's say, she hadn't met him? If this was just some stranger she knocked down? I don't know, was that something that was on your mind you wanted him to be someone she had met?
It was something that we didn't really consider until we were actually scouting the locations. That's how far along that idea came into the process. And it was actually our DP
Right.
who came up with it. And, credit where credit's due, hire your team, trust your people, best idea wins. That's how you tell the best story possible. And it was in the location scouting that he said, have you considered that, maybe he works at the same place that she works? And
Right.
I said, this is a phenomenal idea. Let's rework the script again. And because originally it was just somebody on that she hit, kind of inspired by the original incident, right? Just some guy cruising down the street, kind of distracted. But when you finally see that little connection, it becomes so much more meaningful. And I grew up working in restaurants, and working with, the front of the house and the back of the house looks very different sometimes. And so we were able to like put that in there, and that imbued it. And then again, we then said, well, at the end, you know, she needs to have, the rule of threes, right? She needs to collide again with somebody, and it needs to mean something completely different at that time. And so that's where that idea kind of came to fruition.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I loved how, yeah, he's kind of means nothing to her at the start, and then suddenly he becomes so paramount in her mind, and he becomes so important, and it's a great moral dilemma, I think, to go through. It kind of makes the viewer think, what would they do if they were in the situation? I mean, is that something that you were always trying to do? I mean, to put the viewer in a situation where they need to ask themselves what they would do.
100%. That is the goal. The point of this film is to start a conversation. It's to make you feel something, connect to these characters, maybe feel seen in a certain way, or maybe even be angry about what you see. it's really about trying to question, what would I do in that situation? What would I want to do? I don't think Janie is a bad person. She tries to help. She wants to help. She obviously has her mind focused on her goals.
Hmm.
Um, and this guy obviously wants to be helped. He doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to be hurt. And but he also is looking at the bigger picture. How do I get out of here so that I can get back to a situation where I can take care of myself and take care of my family. And so there's no villain in this story. The villain is
Hmm.
fear and privilege and policy and bad luck and, bad decisions that all kind of culminate in something that is really unfortunate. And it really asks the bigger question, why would this story even happen? Right? If things were different in this country, or if things were different, with how we view each other as Americans, there might have been a different outcome. And I think that's the bigger question that we're trying to ask is who has the right to be an American, and if you were in that situation on either side, what decision would you be faced with?
Right. So there's that moment. It's a great turning point in the film. After she gets him in the back of the car, and then we realize he's undocumented. You're like, all right, what do you do now? Right? It's a great moral dilemma, and so I actually don't know a huge amount about this and illegal immigrants in America, but I mean, what? So he's begging her, no, don't take him to the hospital because he's afraid he's going to get deported. I mean, so what would have actually happened? I mean, if he went to the hospital there in Texas, I mean, have you kind of looked into that, like, and what the consequences would have been?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, in Texas, you do have to, as a medical professional, you do have to administer care to somebody who needs it.
Right.
And you're not supposed to ask, what your status is. There
Oh, I
is there
see.
is an
Okay,
I
right. So it's
Yeah,
different depending on the state, is it? Yeah.
yeah, it's different depending on this. Every state has different rules and regulations. But the issue is, and this was something that was really important. We talked to, again, we have a producer named Sol Bautista who worked on the film with us and was kind of a cultural consultant. She's a first generation. She is an immigrant. She has American citizenship, but she's from Mexico. And she told us, a lot about the experience, the lived experience of people who come over here. And look, you might not know the policy, right? You might not know that you can't be, questioned. Two, you might not know, is it going to cost you? How much it's going to cost you? Do you have the money for that? Right? That's a big question. I mean, I know that there are, a lot of people who put off medical care just simply because of the price, the fear of what they're going to have to pay and can they afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Three, you don't know who you're going to run into in that waiting room, right? Now imagine you're rushed in front of a bunch of people who are waiting there, who see somebody who comes in and they go, is that guy supposed to be here? Maybe I'm going to make a phone call or maybe I'm going to look into that. And then on top of it, you have authority members like the police who, again, not are supposed to, they're supposed to help if facilitate care, but now you're on their radar, right? And I think that all of those things um, add to that idea of just I'd rather not. I'm afraid. I don't understand. I don't want that because it opens up a whole can of worms. And so, I mean, we saw this happen with the collapse of the Key Bridge in Baltimore. There were some migrant workers that were rescued from that collapse, and at least one is on record as refusing medical service. And I don't know why. I don't know more about the story, but you would have to imagine it was something similar to the
I,
situation.
I would imagine, yeah, yeah, like very interesting, yeah. So like I guess it's the whole people's opinion on immigration, I guess varies as well, doesn't it? I mean, depending on whether you're a Trump supporter or or a Democrat supporter, so um I guess, yeah, I mean, like in Texas, yeah, I mean, it's quite anti-immigration, isn't it? That would be the vibe I would imagine. But like, so back to the actors, like I wanted to, like, what I noticed, they had just a really great chemistry, right, between the two of them. And it seemed, I was wondering, was that all, was it scripted, or did they improvise some of that dialogue, or how did you get that working? I mean, did they workshop scenes together?
Yeah, so Carlos lives in Texas, Lauren lives in Los Angeles, and so we would get on Zoom. And the way that I like to work is I like to like we read the words on the page, right? Everything that was written, we kind of go through. and more than that, we talk about the intention. What is the point of this line? What is this person trying to convince this? What is the, obviously the subtext and all of those things. And to me, that's way more important than the actual words. Obviously, information needs to be communicated. So we did some Zoom sessions, but it wasn't until we were actually on set that all three of us were together. And that was the first time that they acted together. There was no in-person rehearsals. But because we went so deep on who these characters are, what their lived experiences are, what their memories are, what their intentions are, what they want, what they're all of that stuff that I think is part of the work of being a filmmaker. When we said action and the first time they acted together, that was it. And so they clicked right into it. And then once we're on set, the script goes out the window for me, in terms of what are the words, because we know the intention, because we know what's supposed to happen. I really embrace as much improvisation as I can around those words. And so, live in the moment, live in the emotion. What's going to come out is going to come out. And so obviously a lot of that information in the first act and in the third act, that's a little bit tighter to the script. And a lot of what happens in the second act is a lot more improvisational.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I loved how this film was shot. I mean, there's this really great edgy handheld style, and how it's edited. It's beautiful. It's so it flows really nicely. It's fast. It's just really great, concise piece of cinema. But there's a lot of tension in how it was shot there, and it really kind of keeps you glued to it. You can't take your eyes off it. So tell me a bit about the visual style of the film, and how you approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we start off with a montage, and a lot of the montage in the beginning, we wanted to basically get you up to speed in a few minutes, like tell an entire life story, how long this girl has been at this, how hard she's been working. For that, we actually went through hundreds of hours of home videos from Lauren, and that's actually her childhood that we found where
Right.
she.
Okay. I thought it was a really nice way to get into it, and a nice little introduction to the
Yeah,
character, because before the title even comes up, you've got a really good sense of who she is. This girl is desperately trying and trying and trying all her life
yeah. And
to get a
she's at the
break. Yeah.
diner and she's busking on the street and
Yeah.
like that whole thing. And her mother is actually played by her actual mother, so when she says, "Hey, Janie May, look over here," that's her mother's voice. And so
Okay.
again, trying to
Right.
bring as much authenticity to this as possible. We just really wanted to get you off and running. Some people think it's a documentary actually in that first section because
Right.
it's that like true life feel, which is great. And then we kind of broke it down into three major chunks. So in the beginning, she's the camera is on steady cam, right? It's basically pushing her towards her fate, right? So we're behind her. We're
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
pushed
I loved that shot. Yeah.
you
It's so
know,
cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and she's in her world, right? And she's very confident, right? And that's all done in one long take. And of course, we went and got our coverage and inserts. And then in the second
Mm.
piece, it's once she gets into that accident, we've actually took the lens off the camera for that first shot in the car.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
it's it's it's
It's out of focus. Is that what you did? That's so interesting.
yeah, we
Right.
like pulled the lens off because like you're so jarred, right? So we like just pulled it
Right.
off the sensor a little, and it's her face is cut off. You can't really see her reaction. Like you're in that hopefully emotional state. And then we did all of that as one long take handheld, right? Finding those moments, really
Mm.
getting inside of and then being very, very close to the actors, right? We're inside in the car, we're between them, right? We're not over the shoulder. We're inside that conversation. And similar with the cop moment, which I should say, in the spirit of authenticity, was played by the actual sergeant of the Waco PD.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay,
that's a
great.
whole.
Wow.
So, I mean, on set we've got a first generation Mexican American and a old school cop sitting
Did
on
you just
set.
go to the cop and then say, I hear, like, are you happy to be in the film?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and
that's
I think
great.
again, like he's not a villain, right? So, and
Yeah.
then in third act, camera wise, she's being pulled by the camera, right? The can
Right.
and she's being drawn, and we can't
Mm.
see where she's going, and that was really important to us as well. That she's constantly being kind of pulled, and we can't see what's ahead of her,
Mm.
and so it's a reversal of that first scene in terms of what the camera's doing, and that was all by design.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. It's really great. I mean, it's just beautiful. It was one of the things that kind of got me. This is just a really lovely flow to how it was shot, and but also it's it's very concise. It's a film that it warrants the length. it's 15 minutes, and you know, you can't take your eyes off it. So yeah, I mean, what was it always intended like to be that length, or was there a lot of effort getting it down to that length?
Yeah, my feeling is if you're going to tell a story, you got to earn every minute that your audience, is giving you. And so we always wanted to keep it as tight as possible. I think our first cut came in, yeah, around 20, almost 30 minutes, right? And we get you have to lose your darlings. We shot the entire car crash scene where he goes under the car and you roll and all
Oh, right.
that all went away. That's a
Oh
lot of
no.
work. It's a lot of time, it's stunt coordination. And we just said, the economy of story, we want to make it feel like you saw a feature film in 15 minutes. And
Yeah, it packs a lot in. You know,
yeah,
yeah, it's great. So, like, I love how it ends as well. How you've left, you know, some loose threads hanging. You know, you know, I think if we were to find out, you know, if she wins the competition, or if we find out that he gets to safety, it would kind of lose the resonance that the film has. You know, so I mean, is that something that you were very conscious of? You were making it that you didn't really want to wrap it up neatly.
absolutely. I mean, hopefully you feel that it ends in a satisfying way, that we got
It
to an end.
does, definitely.
At
Yeah,
the same,
I think there's more nuance to it, but it ends and it leaves you thinking about it, you know, after you've seen it.
well, it asks the question like, well, what happens, right? If he survives, what's next? If he doesn't survive, what happens to him, right? What's his fate? If she wins, she's going to be doomed to sing this song on stage or record it for the rest of her life. If she loses, what was it all for? And I think, that's a good film should leave you satisfied, but also ask a much bigger question about who we are and what's next.
So you've been going around to lots of festivals with it. What's the audience reaction been to the film in general?
I mean, people laugh, people cry, people get upset, people get
Right.
angry about it. People want her to win, people don't want her to win, people want him to get away, people are upset that he's there in the first place. And I think it doesn't matter what side of the conversation you fall on. I think what it's about is starting that conversation. And I think that's what we've done. We've gotten really deep. We've had those lobby conversations after the Q&A.
Mm,
People come up and they just want to talk for 20, 30 minutes about
yeah.
what this means. And I've had, a lot of really meaningful conversations, and that was the intention. And so I'm really happy
So yeah,
about
I
that.
mean, it's a film that it really makes you think, and you know, it puts you, you know, in the character's shoes where you kind of feel every moment, every feeling, and you know, it's a film. It's got something to say. You know, so right, last question then. You know, what would you hope that you know audiences would take away from the film after they see it?
Well, I mean, I first and foremost, I hope they're entertained and engaged and interested in the story and the characters. But I hope they really just ask the question about what they believe is right in this situation,
Hmm.
and we all have ambition, we're all chasing a dream, and what is the cost of that? And making sure I hope that people ask, what are we checking in with our morals and our humanity as we go after those goals. And I really just hope that like again, no matter what side of the fence you fall on in terms of the debate, no matter what you think is right in terms of policy for America, I hope that you can see the humanity in each other, and that helps guide your decision making as you go forward. That's what I hope.
Okay, well, it's. I mean, I love social awareness films and films that have the you know power to affect social change, and you know this is one of them. I think you know it's one that really makes you think. Beautifully made. You know, the visual style, the performances in it are really just beautiful. Yeah. So congratulations. You know, and on all its success so far. I hope it will continue, and I hope we get to see it on the short list. What would it mean to you if you to see it there on the shortlist for the Academy Awards?
I mean, this is a dream I've been chasing my whole life, and it would be a life-changing moment for me, and everybody involved, I think. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's really great. It was a standout for me. You know, I've watched a lot of short films, and this one stayed with me. So hopefully we'll see it there. And good luck with it all. It's been so nice talking to you, Gregory. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me, and best of luck with the shortlist. Hopefully we'll see it there. I'll be rooting for you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Take care. Nice talking to you.
Bye.